Today we are in Portree on the beautiful Isle of Skye.
It's looking like it's going to be an absolutely beautiful day in terms of the weather, and we are so excited to get off and explore.
We can already see that the skies are blue, so we can't wait for a beautiful sunny day out on the Isle of Skye.
Hi, if you're new to our channel, we are Tom and Dom Travel, and we put together daily vlogs of our cruise adventures in the hope that they are helpful to you. So if you haven't done so already, press that subscribe button and don't forget to give this video a like.
We didn't get up as early as we usually do today because we knew we had much longer in port than we did when we were in the Orkneys. So we headed up for a walk around deck first of all.
On the all aboard information sheet that's delivered to your cabin the night before, it did say, because Portree is a tender port, that the busiest times were between 9 and 11. So we thought we'd have a leisurely morning and not really get mixed up with those queues. So we went up to the coffee house, which is the Ambassador's coffee shop that's situated on deck 12. It's an absolutely fantastic location. It gives an authentic coffee shop feel. You can buy little treats and cakes and sandwiches. It's just a really nice location. So we grabbed a couple of premium lattes and took them up onto deck 14 to check out the spectacular views, and they were magnificent.
It's worth pointing out that on Ambassador they don't do any takeaway cups, so you do have to take your ordinary mug out on deck with you. There is no option for a takeaway cup like other lines. By this time it meant we'd missed breakfast in the main dining room, so we headed straight to the Borough Market buffet.
Even though we left it a little bit later this morning, it was still really busy, and we did struggle to find a couple of seats. However, after walking round a few times, we were lucky enough to get one.
Okay, so for breakfast I had my usual sausage, bacon, beans and hash browns.
And this morning I just opted for some cereal and some fruit yogurt. I think all of these cooked breakfasts are starting to get to me, and I'm just fancying something a little bit lighter first thing in the morning. They've got a really nice selection of different cereals as well as fruit and also yogurt. After breakfast in the Borough Marketplace, we went back to our cabin to pick up our bags and coats, and then made our way down to the centre court to join the tender queue.
Yes, we could see the queue from deck 6 down in the centre court. It was quite a big queue, so we decided to hang on 5 minutes, took a seat, and just to see how the queue was going. But what we could see is that it did take a while for the queue to go down, but once the queue went down, virtually all the queue disappeared, and then it built back up again. So we decided, once the queue had dropped down a little bit shorter, to join that queue.
We queued for roughly around about 10 minutes, and then we were straight on the tender. It was absolutely fantastic because those queues did look absolutely massive, but once you were in it, it was quite a quick little turnaround.
Yeah.
And they had 2 tenders going. It really did sort of speed up and make the whole experience very efficient.
And they can fit a lot of people in those tenders, so please don't panic if you see a queue. It does look large, it does go down really quickly. Once on board the tender, we then headed straight towards Portree. It took roughly about 20 minutes to get there from the ship itself. Lovely scenic views from the tender, and it was a smooth ride, which is great news.
Once we docked in Portree, it was very quick and efficient getting off the tender and onto the shore side. There was a slight little incline that some people did struggle to get up, but it wasn't anything too taxing. They just took it a little bit slower. What was good to note was this information in terms of the incline and the number of steps needed to move from the tender drop off to the main port was displayed on all of the digital screens around the ship as well, so passengers were well informed.
It is also recommended by an announcement before we got on board the tender that anyone with severe disabilities or unable to walk would not be able to use the tender. They did even actually advise that you had a look at the tender itself and decided for yourself whether you could get yourself on and off with just minimal help from the crew. So bear that in mind if you are on an itinerary that has tenders. Once we arrived in Portree, we headed straight out of the port area and headed up towards the information centre.
Along the road from where the tender dropped us off into the main town of Portree, there were a few restaurants, cafes, and quite a few boat tours that are available. So that's very good to know if you haven't booked an excursion in Portree.
We then arrived at the Tourist Information Centre. We popped in for a quick look. They did offer us a map, but we'd already had a map from the team at the drop-off point for the tender, and we just had a little walk around to see what was on offer. What we did notice is that there was a tower near the drop-off point for the tender, and we wanted to ask how we got up there. The guys in the visitor centre were really helpful and directed us.
So we made our way up to this tower, which is quite prominent because as you're coming in from the tender you can see it and it just looks absolutely fab. So we were really quite excited just to find out what exactly it was. So we got up to the top after a very short little woodland walk. It was quite nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, really surprised because you could actually go inside this tower.
They had a metal staircase inside that you could climb up and reach the top of the tower, which then provided excellent views over the bay, and you could even see Ambience in the distance.
We did feel so lucky because the weather was just glorious, and for a day in Scotland in April, it was just incredible.
From the tower we followed a pathway that took us around to an area that was the location of the Highland Games, so that was really interesting to see. It was a circular space, obviously now just grassed over, but you could really picture what type of things would have been happening here during the Highland Games. Once again, from this space there were more spectacular views looking out over the bay. It was a really nice place to sit and just spend a few minutes looking out.
After checking out the area, getting some photos and videos of just the incredible views of Portree and the surrounding areas, we decided then to make our way back into town. Portree is a small town and they've got a centre square with lots of different cafes. There's also local bus links, and a number of our fellow passengers took the opportunity to go on public transport on the bus and have a tour, self-guided tour around the Isle of Skye, which if we'd known in advance perhaps we might have done as well.
Yeah, it's a good option to do that's quite cheap. Take your self-guided tour on the local buses. From that main square area we headed up a path that took us along the coast, and once again more spectacular views.
It's a very picturesque area, it was beautiful.
After our little walk along the coast there, we came back into town and then headed back towards the drop-off point for the tender to pick up the tender back over to Ambience.
All in all, exploring the town of Portree, we were roughly on shore for around 2 hours and we managed to fit everything in. I think next time it would be a really good idea to get on that bus and have a tour around the island. The tender ride was really smooth back in terms of we didn't have to queue very long, 25 minutes and we were back on Ambience. We did manage to get some fantastic shots of us approaching Ambience. We got back on board around about 12:45. Now the main dining room for lunch only opens between 12 and 1 on port days. So we had 15 minutes and we hurried up to the Buckingham Restaurant because we were a little bit peckish by now. We made it in time, sat down at a table, really quick, really efficient, and enjoyed some lunch.
Lunch on board today was fantastic. It started off for me with a starter of tortilla chips with dips. There were only 3 of them, so it was really just an appetizer. But what I had was very tasty.
For my starter today, I opted for the Scotch egg. Now, I love a Scotch egg. This one was beautiful, it was fresh, it was warm. It came with a bit of gravy, which was a little bit unique. I've never had a Scotch egg with gravy, but it was delicious and I ate the lot. Yeah, my gammon the other night had gravy with a fried egg. Still haven't forgotten about that. Scarred.
For my main then, I had fish and chips and it was beautiful. I had 3 really good sized portions of fish and the chips were nicely cooked and I had mushy peas on the side. It was a perfect meal. I think I went for the best option.
No, you definitely did. That fish was spectacular. Really tasty. For my main, I opted for the BLT sandwich. It was really nice. It came with a side of chips and I thoroughly enjoyed it. If I were to choose again though, I'd definitely have the fish and chips.
Yeah. And then on to dessert, we both went for the same thing. We went for the pear crumble. It was, again, really nice because we had a crumble a couple of days ago. It comes with a little bit of custard on top, and for some reason their crumbles are really, really tasty, aren't they? So
we didn't have a glass of wine with dinner today. We had some Heineken because we'd been out walking and it was a beautiful day and we were just a little bit thirsty. Really good service.
Very, very good service, very efficient. We were in and out, not much wait at all between meals. Really, really good in the restaurant. As it was such a beautiful day, we thought we'd head up to deck 12 and get some time relaxing in the sun.
Quite a few of our fellow passengers joined us, and it's the busiest we've seen the pool deck since we've been on board. On deck 12 you'll find the vast majority of sun loungers, and they were pretty much full by the time we got up there. We did manage to find a couple, sat down, ordered a couple of drinks and just enjoyed the sun.
Ambassador sun loungers are actually really big in size. They've got these lovely comfy pads on. They're definitely much, much better than the standard plastic metal sun loungers that you normally get on ships. These do feel a bit better quality.
They were that comfortable we both fell asleep.
We had a little snooze.
It was really, really pleasant, nice afternoon. It was the first time we had the opportunity to actually experience the pool deck.
But we didn't go in the pool.
No.
It still isn't quite warm enough for the pool. But I do think we did catch a little bit of colour on our face from sitting there for an hour or so. After that, it was once we'd both woken up, well, Dom woke me up, we headed straight to afternoon tea in the Borough Market.
We haven't had the opportunity to experience afternoon tea on board yet, so we were quite looking forward because a number of our fellow passengers have been talking about how amazing it was.
Yeah. And there is lots of choice. So all of those stations that are usually set up at breakfast or at dinner were once again set up. Some with cakes, some with pancake, waffles, sausage rolls,
pizza, sandwiches, ham and cheese toasties,
hot cross buns. The hot cross buns looked absolutely beautiful. We are cruising over the Easter period, which is why there is hot cross buns, and they were really nice. We also tried some of the sausage rolls, some of the grilled sandwiches.
We had a proper feast and thoroughly enjoyed it. We enjoyed it that much, we took some sausage rolls back to the room so that we could eat them later on when we got in.
But we didn't have any scones, we just didn't have space, so hopefully we'll get those later on in the cruise.
We then made our way back to the cabin just to get ourselves refreshed and ready for the evening.
On the all aboard information sheet that we get in the cabin, it stated that tonight's dress code was a smart dress code, which is quite interesting because there is 3 dress codes on board. You have casual some days, smart some days, and then you have your formal night.
As we're sailing for 11 nights, we were informed before boarding that we would have 2 formal nights. So this evening was a little bit different because it was a smart dress night. While we're in the cabin getting ready for the evening, the captain made an announcement over the ship's tannoy system to inform all passengers that unfortunately we wouldn't be able to dock in Le Havre.
Not really a major issue for us because instead of Le Havre we're going to Honfleur, which by coincidence we had planned to go from Le Havre to visit Honfleur. So actually it turns out that it's to our benefit.
So yeah, it's absolutely fantastic that Ambassador has managed to schedule another port instead of Le Havre at such short notice. So we're really looking forward to docking in Honfleur and exploring this picturesque French town.
And I think we've only been able to do this because of the size of the ship. Ambience is much smaller than some of those big, large American-based lines, so it means they can get into those smaller ports. So we've actually been really lucky.
Once we were ready, we quickly hurried to the Botanical Lounge on deck 7, because tonight at 7:15 there was another vignette.
These vignettes are fantastic. What we will say is you must get there early. So we got there about 25 minutes early and already it was getting very busy. And by the time the show was about to start, there was just standing room only and people were packed in. So please get there early if you want a seat. The show itself was fantastic. Once again, it was a story of a couple out on deck on a cruise ship, perfectly set. It was a discussion about longitude, latitude, how the speed of knots is calculated. It was really interesting. Informative, funny, entertaining, worked really, really well.
The vignette lasted 15 minutes. Once it finished, the Botanical Lounge did get a lot quieter. We stayed and enjoyed a couple of drinks. I had a gin and tonic, and Tom tried a Time for Gin. Now, onboard Ambience, in the Purple Turtle, Raffles, and in the Botanical Lounge, they also have their own specialty drinks that you can only get in those venues, including this Time for Gin.
And it was really, really tasty. It surprised me because you'd already tried one earlier on in the cruise, and it was my first time trying one. And I really enjoyed it. I will definitely be having another.
We stayed in the Botanical Lounge, enjoyed our drinks for a little while, and then we made our way out onto the Deck 7 prom just to watch the sail away as we sort of moved away from the Isle of Skye. Again, the weather couldn't have been any better. It was just a really beautiful sail away this evening.
From looking at those spectacular views at Sail Away, we made our way across the prom to Buckingham Restaurant ready for dinner.
We were a little bit early, there was a little bit of a queue, but as soon as the time came, once again, because it is set sitting, you get the same table, everybody knew where they were going, so it was pretty smooth really. Sat down, waiter came, took our drinks order for us. Again, we had the signature wine.
Yeah, the signature wine is different every evening, and so far everyone has been fantastic. We started off our meal with an appetizer, and we both went for the same appetizer and probably made a little mistake. The appetizer was a samosa, and one samosa is what's included. Now our waiter asked us, would you like to have 2 samosas instead? To which we said yes, expecting these samosas to be very small when actually they were quite big and quite filling. So we already started off with feeling quite full after our 2 samosas that we ate each, but they were absolutely lovely, weren't they? Very tasty.
Really, really delicious, and yeah, one would have been plenty because they were massive.
They were. We then went on to our soup course, and I had the spinach cream soup. Really tasty, really green. But, as I keep saying, you can't go wrong with the soups on board.
I opted to have the Petit Henry IV soup, and it was very, very tasty. It had a lot of vegetables, and it also had chicken, pork and beef. Really, really tasty, beautiful flavours. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
We chose not to have a salad course today, so we went straight on to the mains. I chose to have the ginger chicken. Now, it was recommended to me by the waiter, and he did say that it was one of the most popular dishes. For me, it wasn't one of my favourite meals I'd had on board, but I could see why it is popular. It came with rice and vegetables, but for me, it was a little on the spicy side, but it was tasty.
And for my main, I opted to have the baked ham and spinach cannelloni. Now, I do like pasta, I do like cannelloni. This was tasty. I had plenty of cheese, I had plenty of spinach, a filling, 3 tubes of cannelloni, beautiful. There was no ham in it though.
No, you did open it out and say,
there's no ham.
Where's the ham?
It was very tasty, and to be honest, I preferred it without the ham.
Yeah.
With the ham, I think. I couldn't eat it all. After the samosa, I was stuffed, so I did struggle to finish.
But it didn't stop us having dessert.
No.
For dessert, then I went for the banoffee pie. Once again, really, really tasty. Really enjoyed that dessert. And he brought with me a little side of ice cream to go with it.
I opted to have the sundae. Now, the reason I opted to have it was because it was rum and raisin again. And a couple of nights ago, I had the rum and raisin sundae, and it was delicious. And tonight, it was equally as delicious. Really, really strong. You could definitely taste the rum in that ice cream. It is fantastic.
After coming out of the Buckingham Restaurant, we ended up on Deck 6 because we got tempted into the casino.
The casino on board Ambience is relatively small. There are 2 tables, but the vast majority are slot machines. What's interesting is you don't actually use your cruise card in order to use any of the slot machines on board. You actually put cash in, which is quite interesting.
It's the first time on any ship where we've actually played with real money, so We do feel like we're a little bit more in control rather than just using your cruise card to spend. So we had a little go, we had a tenner in the machine, but we didn't come out successful.
No, but it was quite interesting.
It was interesting. That £10 didn't last long at all, so we headed out of the casino and up through to the Purple Turtle.
In the Purple Turtle, they were doing an Oscars game show, and it looked absolutely fabulous.
Yeah.
Now, what we're noticing is that the vast majority of these game shows are on at 9:15 in the Purple Turtle. Unfortunately, because we are on a late dining sitting, we're missing them. We're walking into the Purple Turtle at around about 9:30, 9:45. The game shows and the quizzes look absolutely fantastic.
Everyone seems to be getting involved, and there was a lot of hilarity in tonight's game show. They had some of the entertainment team acting out scenes along with some of the fellow passengers. It was hilarious, really, really good game show, the little bit that we caught. So it has been a shame that if you've got that late sitting, you can't catch all of these things going on. But then again, for us, the early sitting is a little bit too early, so it swings and roundabouts. You can't do everything on board.
The early sitting on board is at 5:45, so 5:45, which is a bit too early for us. From there, we headed into the Palladium Theatre.
Tonight's show was a Broadway themed show by Tiago Lemos, one of the entertainment team, and he is a fantastic singer, and he delivered some of those really classic Broadway hits. He sang songs from Sunset Boulevard, Les Miserables. He even did a song from the stage version of Beauty and the Beast. What I would say though is you do need to be a fan of Broadway musicals, and in particular older classic musicals, to pick up on the shows, because I think you struggled with a few of them, didn't you?
I knew too.
But for me, I knew majority of them and I really enjoyed his show. But there's no question that he's got an absolutely fantastic voice, and he really knows how to entertain the crowd, and they were very, very impressed with him at the end. All in all, really, really good show.
From there, we quickly hurried up to the observatory, because what we've sort of cottoned on to by now is that if you don't get up there after the main theatre performance, you will struggle to get a seat. And tonight it was very busy because one of the showcast team was doing a solo performance up there.
Gabby was doing some of her favourite songs. It was a really, really good set again. These entertainment team members are fantastic. I don't think there's been one of them that we've been able to say a bad word about. So they are really, really good, really hard working. I think everywhere we go on the ship, we always see one of them, at least one of them about. And Gabby's show again was fantastic, very, very popular, lots of people getting involved, so really, really good once again.
We then stayed for the late night disco and also sat and chat with the cruise director George and the assistant cruise director Dave.
Just sharing some of our cruising experiences, weren't we? It's so nice to have a team that want to talk to you, because we've been on other ships where the team have not interacted with us or any of the other passengers at all, so it's nice to have a team that really, really gets on well with their passengers.
After chatting a few cocktails in the observatory lounge, we then made our way to the buffet so that Tom could grab a 24-hour tea.
Yeah, I do like my cup of tea before bed, see, and it is always very quiet in the buffet, but the tea facility is there 24 hours a day. Teas, coffees, water are always available in the buffet.
There's also tea and coffee making facilities in your cabin as well. However, obviously it's much nicer to have fresh milk and a latte. We then headed back to the cabin and enjoyed those sausage rolls and those little munchies that we'd taken from afternoon tea,
yes,
which was absolutely fab, and then went to bed.
Yeah, that was the end of our day already. Once again, we've got to get to bed at a reasonable time, if you can call the time we're going to bed reasonable.
1 o'clock.
Because we've got to get up. It's another port day tomorrow. We're off to Tobermory.
Yep, so Isle of Mull, here we come. We're very excited because once again, we haven't been. Thanks for watching our day in Portree on Ambassador Ambience. If you've got any comments or questions, just put them in the box below and we'll get back to you.
And please don't forget to like and subscribe. But also hit that bell button to never miss a video from us. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Thanks for watching. We've got lots more content available on our YouTube channel, so press that subscribe button. If you're interested in receiving daily updates, we're available on most social media platforms. Just search for Tom and Dom Travel.